Well, I picked the topic um, of right speech, not because I'm personally really great at it, but it seemed to me it's also a part of listening, not just speaking. And it just seemed timely in some ways. As I share more, you may find it timely too. And uh, I'm just presuming not everybody knows about the teaching of wise speech. So uh, I will share a little bit about that today and share a little bit that it's part of the Buddhist teaching of the Eightfold Path, which, if I were to teach that, that would be like the rest of the day and probably an hour for the next 8 weeks or more. But I'll do my best just to like tie it together that um, the, in brief, like as brief as possible, that the Eightfold Path is it's like this interconnected um, kind of components of practices that we can do, like really practice or cultivate, like as an action. And it's also considered, teaching that we can be taught, but it's really something that we could act upon that can be in this classic sense of reducing or ending some of our suffering and all of our suffering is the highest kind of the level and yeah, to have a balanced and harmonic life with ourselves and others and the world. So the Eightfold Path has 8 components, and oftentimes each one of those they're really intertwined. You can start at the first one and go to the last one, but they all seem really interconnected. Like mindfulness is the sixth, but without mindfulness, you really wouldn't be able to have this kind of awareness so that you could do the first and the other 7. So they're interconnected. Um, and I'll start with just by saying a little bit more. So, and it, it's just that there's 3 buckets. That's sometimes like breaking 8 things down to 3. That's 3 buckets. And the first 2 are in this bucket of what's considered wisdom that we can discern, like in a way, like what is healthy or unhealthy, what is wholesome or unwholesome, and discern how to live life in a wholesome and unwholesome, or not live in an unwholesome way, but to live in a wholesome way. That we can find discernment, a wisdom through discernment, like what is healthy and not healthy that I may be doing that might be affecting myself and others in the world. And so the first is called right view. Sometimes it's called wise. And this is all translation from this ancient language, Pali. Um, and so right view is you know, seeing the world in a way that can we understand uh, if we are living wholesome or unwholesome. And also on another level to see if we're causing ourselves suffering. And then this is where the teaching of the Four Noble Truths comes in, which is a whole nother story. So going on to the second of the Eightfold Path, I'm not going to go through each one, but I will go through the first couple that wise intention is also just to have an intention to have non-harming. So every one of these is about non-harming ourselves, others, and the world. But the second one specifically says non-harming to cultivate loving kindness. See, this big thing about cultivating. The practice is not just about being in the present moment, it's about cultivating loving kindness, non harming, and in this case, to a letting go. So if we do see something we're doing that's harming or not wholesome or not healthy, that's like a habitual behavior, can we let it go? They use, oftentimes, they use the word renunciation, which sounds very like out of my vocabulary, but letting go of things. And, easier said than done, but that's the first 2 under wisdom. And then the second bucket is virtue or ethical. Again, it's all about non harming. And I'll just mention the next one. The third one is speech. And how much is given to speech, I think, is incredible because we speak a lot and we listen a lot. And there can be benefits and harm in speech. Um, and I'll just kind of veer off now to to talk about that a little bit more detail. The um, why speech? Um, it's a communicating in a way. I'm going to get this right on a piece of paper because it's so nice the way it's stated that is something truthful, beneficial, and kind. Like, what are we saying? Truthful, beneficial, and kind to the best of our knowledge. Um, and does it involve avoiding lying? That's like a really top item here. Is it avoiding lying, harsh language, divisiveness, gossip, um, idle chatter? So some of that might be entertaining, but here they're saying this is something like, is it really beneficial? And then there's these questions that are classic questions that are asked about wise speech. Is it timely? Is what we're talking about timely? Because we might want to be truthful and honest and right and wise or appropriate, but timing could be everything. Like it could be that I'm, in the middle of dinner, maybe going to say some things like, "Oh, is that really the right time to say this?" So and all of these have to do with finding our own sense of balance, like what is wholesome or unwholesome, what is right in this moment. Um, and even this idea of what is right. I just wanted to touch base on that. I don't speak this like ancient Sanskrit like language, Pali, but I think it's interesting looking at they have this term for each one of the Eightfold Path. They have the word sama, which means either right or wise. And the idea that it's right is like, is it appropriate? And so, is it really right or appropriate to talk about certain things at a certain time? And that's where we kind of have to feel into our own sense of you know judgment or ethic. And it could just simply be, is it harmful or not harmful in this moment, and kind of feel into it ourselves. And that's what cultivating and practice is all about. We definitely learn from our mistakes, right? Um, And so another way of maybe feeling into it for myself, I find it helpful that this word sama, which I don't really know, that there's another word that is something wrong or incorrect. Like, is this wrong speech or is this incorrect? And this comes from Buddhist teaching that it can be really helpful to look at the contrast as like, not asking, is this right or wise, but is this wrong and incorrect in this moment? So is it timely? Is it true? Is it gentle? Can we say things in a tone or manner that's considerate? Um, and I guess that means not really speaking harshly or meanly, because that could be like an attack and that could be harmful. And then is it beneficial or is it not beneficial? Is it spoken with a mind of goodwill? And even with this last question, is it with a mind of goodwill, ensuring the intention behind the words that they're rooted in kindness and a desire for well-being for others. So this is also like cultivating, and cultivating is coming from this terminology they use so often in teachings, which I find very beautiful and poetic, comes from farming, like agriculture, like to plant seeds and to fertilize and water and have sunshine. And also, you have to have enough darkness to grow things too, to have a balance that we can cultivate. And that's like what practice is cultivating. And that we do not learn instantly, just like a seed doesn't sprout instantly. And it could be that we might want something to sprout and we want something to grow and we want to do good. But even that, it takes time and cultivation and practice. And like seeing a little seed that sprouts, and it's like, oh, I want it to grow. I want it to grow. So like pulling on it as if that's going to like, oh, come on, like striving, like we want it to grow will make it grow any faster. Well, actually, we root it, we pull it out by the roots. So there's this organic component of cultivating, and wise or right speech really is another example, and also right listening, because the two really go together. Um, so the second bucket I was telling you about in the Eightfold Path starts with speech as kind of being related to a virtue or ethical component, and the other is action, abstaining from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. The next one in this bucket is is right livelihood, our jobs, um, or some kind of work that we do? Is it abstaining from dishonest and harmful means? Like, say, working in a gun factory or a bomb factory might be an example. Like, that might be something to consider. Is it harming? Is it a job that does harming? And that's not a judgment because there could be wisdom, and I'm not going to go into that too deeply, but that's just an example. Finding for yourself livelihood that might be related to non harming. And then in the third bucket, really comes to the meditation component, which is uh, what's called uh, right effort. Um, and this is where we can actually have this mindful awareness to see that if there's something that we are doing that is that is harmful, we can have this effort. It's like, oh, I see it. I have this mindfulness, and can I prevent that? Is there something I can do to cultivate and to move away from it, or to overcome it? So there's four parts to wise efforts: to to prevent or to overcome anything that's already arisen. Like, oh, I can see this even in my meditation. It's like, oh, all these negative thoughts have arisen. So here's where wise effort can come in. Can I can I move towards something that just coming back to my breath or having a moment of loving kindness? So there's the preventing and the overcoming, and then the other two parts of wise effort is the cultivation and the sustaining of positive mind states and helpful behaviors. And then the final of the Eightfold Path is called right concentration. And concentration in English is so often considered with kind of like a striving, like I'm gonna really like concentrate and kind of focus and strain. But so it's kind of not the most perfect word, but it does have the word center, C-O-N, con, with, kind of coming from Latin, and uh, center. So it's to be centered, to find like the steady, I'm, I'm sitting in my chair, to be centered like a balance. Like I'm sitting in my chair balanced, I'm steady, I'm stable. I just plop into my chair. I don't have to strain or force. I'm like, able bodied. So I want to acknowledge that it's kind of like I sit in my chair, I'm balanced. I can waver a little bit to find like a centeredness and a steadiness, and that can actually be sustained and to remain focused. Um, and so all of the Eightfold Path like intertwine and interconnect, and all of them really have to do with being non-harming and finding some kind of way that we can have this healthy path in life to reduce suffering and to benefit ourselves and others and the world. Uh, so I wanted to also point out that it's so obvious that in my own mind that there's thinking happening and unwise speech and all kinds of things going on in my head all the time. Just curious if anybody else ever has that. So I just want to say to the folks on Zoom, a lot of people raised their hands and laughed. So anybody out there not have that? Is there anyone who doesn't have that? Because that would be really nice to know as well. So one of the things that I found really helpful, I've learned from different teachers, and something I do teach some mindfulness based programs, is to be curious if there's like a committee member in our heads. And I like to talk about this from now and then. Like, has anybody ever noticed that there are like maybe different voices in your head, different types of voice? I see a lot of people shaking their head. So the benefit of this is to acknowledge that there could be a committee. Like for myself, it could be that some people might refer to them as lawyers or something. I like committee members. Um, that there might be 10 of them saying, no, 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 don't eat that ice cream. No, no, no. And then there's that like 11th one that just says, eat the ice cream, eat the ice cream. And that's the one that I listen to. And, or it's really knowing there's like this wisdom that I have that like I probably, you know, this might not be the most healthy thing to have ice cream every night or eat the whole container. But this kind of committee member, there's different types of committee members that might be like a slick talker. That could be a slick talker. Um, it could be one that is a mean one that yells. Anybody have those types, slick talkers or mean ones that are not so nice to ourselves? Um, there can be a bossy one. Anyone have bossy ones? And there's like definitely for me, there's ones that said you should have done this. So the shoulding, or you could have done that, or you should have done that. That's definitely another voice. Um, and so the kind of shoulding that this is kind of like a shoulding all over ourselves type of person. And so many different possibilities, and to notice them, to notice this is self talk, some kind of um, speech, and is it really so wise? And it is like conditioning, like we're all raised from in different ways. We have so much input. We have, both our family backgrounds, and that came from their ancestors. So we have ancestral behaviors. We also are just bombarded by information.
Hi, I'm Franz with Long Beach Meditation. Your gracious generosity makes this programming possible. If you found this video to be of value, please consider making a donation here. If you'd like to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to stay in touch with Long Beach Meditation, click here to subscribe. Thank you, and may all beings be happy.